Look at that. Exactly 0 seconds to go. Oh, the efficiency of going live. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Olimoleague March Finals. I just want to quickly note a couple of things as I fix Zombie Grub's camera size. Scooch that over. I am having some audio issues with Zombie Grub, not in terms of anything terrible, but I'm also aware that I might just be being way too much of a perfectionist here. So if there's some problems with the audio in any regards, please don't be shy. You're not going to get timed out for feedback in this regard. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's loud, whether it's quiet, whether it's sounding strange, please let me know so that we can adjust it on the fly and make sure you guys got the best experience watching the show. That being said, Zombie Grub, you've just gone through quite a bit of traveling. How you doing?
The traveling's really not so bad. It was a direct flight, so I'm doing pretty well, actually.
Good to hear. I remember I have not taken flights that long, all but like Homestar Cup or Korea, and I just hated the flight. Such a bad experience. But I also just hate traveling too, so I'm a little biased in that regard. How's it? I guess, do you have to adjust the time zones? Because Europe's not that crazy far ahead of the East Coast, right?
It's 6 hours ahead, but it's a, I come back to the U.S. when it's like 2 or 3 in the morning in Paris, so I basically just force myself to do everything I need to do, like unpack and stuff, and then I go to sleep, and obviously my body's pretty tired, so it doesn't feel any different.
Well, it's good to have you back, man. Not that you've been gone from the channel too long, but anyways, folks, we are getting into the Olimoleague Monthly Finals. We put out a Twitter vote. Many of you voted on which of the 4 matches to cast today, and we're going with Solar versus aLive for our round of 8 match. That being said, we should be casting both of the semifinals, which are best of 5s, and the grand finals, which is the best of 7s. So you get 1 best of 3, 2 best of 5s, and a best of 7. It should be a pretty sweet, I'm gonna guess like 3-hour cast, maybe a little bit more depending on how the best of 7 goes, but
right,
nothing will be as long as yesterday. In fact, yesterday went so long it actually broke the sub counter here, because it's still counting subs from less than 24 hours ago. As we have not had 50 people subscribe to this stream since we went live. That's for damn sure.
Wow. How long did it go? 6 hours?
Yeah, it was ace match every game except the grand finals, which went to 4. Wow. Actually, straight up recommend, by the way, the BTSL Korea group for you, Zombie Grub, or anyone that missed it. You don't even have to watch the whole thing. It was good and enjoyable, but game 1 of Gumiho and Hero, our very first match of the day, ended in a base trade that had like epic proportions. It was so good. So I really enjoyed yesterday's stream. Hopefully today we'll get just as good of games. I see Impact here, who I'm really looking forward to doing well today, but as I said, we're casting Solar and aLive. It looks like they're ready to go, so I will stop yapping your ears off, guys. We're gonna hop into Eastwatch, and I'll see you for this first game of the Olimoleague Monthly Finals. As it's probably going to be linked in chat in a moment, if you guys did miss yesterday's finals, you can go ahead and jump to the end. There's a spoiler. I went through, as many of you know, go through the clips at the end of every broadcast, and there was like 3 clips that weren't related to the end of Gumiho versus Hero, and then like 100 that were. So you guys shouldn't have too much trouble finding the quick spoiler version of that series if you want to look for it. But we are, of course, in a brand new tournament today. It is the Olimoleague. I'm rocking the cast with Zombie Grub, and starting here in the lower left for this best of 3 round of 8 match, we have the blue Terran, aLive.
In the top right, as the teal Zerg, he is Solar.
I think it's safe to assume, and I'm gonna ask you politely, with assuming you know the answer, but do you think Solar takes the series?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm just on the same boat. He's been looking so good in everything he's done. He didn't have the greatest showing recently here on the channel, but aLive has been in not so great shape lately. And I don't mean this in like a negative way, but if you guys were riding that aLive hype train like I was in like November, September area, he was killing it. He was absolutely killing it. And I don't know if it's post-patch blues or things have just changed too much, but even his ZVT's been looking pretty weak lately.
He always seems to have these upswings at the beginning of the year or just before the beginning of the year, and then, you know, that's when he was almost the next best Terran, 2017. And then he just falls off really bad. And I don't know what it is either. I mean, I don't know if he knows what it is. Maybe he's legitimately just practicing more often at a certain time than others. But yeah, he doesn't look so great anymore. And while Solar can sometimes underperform in online cups, I feel like this matchup with aLive not being able to really pressure and gain momentum it's looking pretty good for Solar.
aLive did, by the way, for those who haven't been keeping up to date with current events, recently leave Mind Sanity, and he's joined this new team, Titan EX1, I think it's called. I have a small story about this for later today, perhaps, but yeah, it's a brand new team. I don't know much about them. Supposedly, they're like an AI development startup. I don't know, dude. Like, their team sounds hella questionable to me. I don't know anything about them, but they've picked up some pretty good players, and aLive Impact are amongst some of the few. Yeah,
some Korean players. It's always a little mysterious when any team suddenly like takes a lot of players that you recognize.
Well, what was weird, I recall, maybe this was a different instance, but I thought I heard that these guys were like just sitting there at the GSL qualifiers with contracts like in hand, looking just to sign open players at the time.
Didn't hear that. Don't know anything about that.
It was like the most aggressive scouting I'd ever heard.
That's really, yeah, that doesn't sound that great, actually. Okay. Well, we did have a command center first, and aLive chose not to go for a Reaper afterwards, but luckily Solar only sent 2 Lings out here. If he had sent 6, which was no reason to, he didn't even go full first, this room would die and the SCVs would have to be pulled, and that's so good. But this is a great scout for Solar. So it really, really works out for him. He's going to see that the starport's late, so it should be a 3rd command center. And then barely see the 3rd command center. Yep.
Oh, check that vision. Yeah, he did. Well, this is, I guess, a little bit less conventional. Not having a Reaper zipping and zooming around the field, but Hellions and a Banshee follow-up, or not even a Banshee in this instance. And, oh, did you host this lobby or did the players?
I did.
Wait a minute. Oh, it just wasn't working for a second there. Excuse me. I was about to get quite accusatory about using game hop, but we're good. We're good. It was just, I guess the command bugged out or something. But anyways, not Banshee. It's a Viking coming up first to clear up an Overlord or 2, which would be nice, but there's none to really be had. Solar's actually already withdrawing the ones he has on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty perfect play. Solar is already his way up to a lair and a roach warren, so I don't know if this is going to lead into anything more nefarious like an armory, but we do have cyclones on the way. aLive pretty much doing what seems to be just a more popular meta right now for Terran. He did command center first. He's doing Hellions into a couple of cyclones. This protects you against a lot of stuff, but it also allows you to be aggressive. Now that scout was kind of cool from Solar. It saw that the starport had swapped over, which, you know, was pretty key. But then he did fake cloak. Yeah. Which I believe he did mean to do. Like, he did want a Raven.
Yeah, I think this was just like a little bit of mind games from aLive, but I don't know how crazy they'll be. It is so standard that usually Banshee timings don't really throw you off whether you scouted or not, so the effort to put in a fake one leaves it questionable. Like, okay, you baited out a Spore Crawler that would have gone down anyways at some point in this game. So the Raven's gonna have some interesting aspects to this. Lately, we've been seeing a lot of anti-armor missile take precedence, but the interference matrix being able to disable queens, so that means you can do these attacks with the Hellions a lot more efficiently. You can stop them from transfusing. I'm really curious how he plans to use the Raven, because I mean, at the very most basic use, just free detection so you can clean up creep is also not bad. But oh, Solar was not ready for this run by, and this is picking off a few more drones than it should. Cost efficient here for aLive. He does trade out at least equally, but takes a couple of SCV losses on the other side of the field too. So I'm not sure if this is quite great or not, but aLive does pick off 9 drones. Not too shabby.
I would say it's pretty good, considering he's just really had no luck in this game. That's kind of the first time that's happened. Lings have gotten in, they've scouted everything twice, you know, and killing 9 drones is, if nothing else, a bit of a morale boost for aLive, who is easily replacing Hellions. He went for such a fast 3rd CC and put it on location so fast as well that affording double armory while also affording tanks to, you know, still play a safe game is totally possible. And he's actually going to just dodge right past the roaches as they were tearing down rocks for more drone kills.
This is a little surprising too. Solar is doing what he should. He's splitting his drones instead of stacking them and running away, right? But still, aLive is managing to pick up more kills from this than he really should. 9 on the first run by, 8 on the second. And Solar's a guy who, he's kind of a lot like Snoot in the regard that if he gets to get away with like 4 bases and 80 drones, dude's gonna be in his best spot. But keeping the drone count low, it's not really cutting into the army, it's not delaying tech, but it is keeping Solar from getting that sweet spot.
What was nice for that run by was that it got a lot of specific scouting. The third base, maybe you could tell if there's like less drones or not, but it's a macro game, so that's not even the case. No, that one saw the infestation pit. So
Yep.
You really shouldn't be expecting a bunch of roaches coming across the map. aLive has no reason to truly be afraid here. Solar also doesn't have much reason to be afraid. I mean, he's playing against mech. It's going to be a slow push much later on. But he is, you know, he probably wanted to be on a fourth base already. Instead, he just starts it. Maybe it should have been done by now if he didn't have to replace you know, what, 16, 17 drones. And I mean, it's good for aLive, but Solar isn't really worried quite yet. You know, he's actually just investing in so much, getting ready for the final push. That we'll see what that looks like.
I've actually been watching quite a bit of not Solar but Impact yesterday fighting up against mech, and we saw the similar stuff where, okay, it's roaches, it's hydras, it's vipers, and it's less on broodlords and ultras. But that being said, that was against very, very different players like Innovation and Gumiho. But it seems like the Viper usage is like the most key aspect of fighting mech, no matter who you are or what style you go for. So getting this hive out nice and quick, this means he's going to have Vipers, ideally at least 3 to work with. Either your Goblin units up with Abducts or putting Blinding Clouds down. aLive doesn't have that many units, so if he can get some kills, that'll be really nice. But later on when the mech army's maxed out, you're not going to have that freedom to get as many units. Not for as free, but Queen's taking some of the hits on the front line. Got to be careful. There's not that many transfuses available, and one does go down.
Solar is, you know, he's not quite ready for this yet. He does grab the Raven, but after the anti-armor missiles have been used, so maybe he wants to just back off. Taking this base against a mech player actually seems quite questionable. I mean, I don't want to be so harsh about it, but Hellions, you have Blue Flame.
The rally almost accidentally blocks him out, and that would have been wonderful, but he's so focused on the front lines. But he does take a great fight, but in the process, leaving himself vulnerable to more drone kills. And, oh, 8, these Hellions are still going. That Blue Flame, as you mentioned, frying everything up real nice, and 9 more workers die. Grand total of 26 so far.
But aLive's push was halted. It seemed like it was more of a clever push than it really was the final push that mech wants to do. He had a couple of units, he had a Raven, he had chokes on his side because it's East Watch, and Solar was not ready for a fight where he was like getting this huge concave and coming from multiple directions. So it was cute, but it didn't really seem like it was ever going to kill Solar. Solar did take damage from it, you know, did trade out army, lost the drones, but now he's ready with Vipers, getting onto Greater Spire eventually. And all of his upgrades are now done as well, which, yeah, Hydra speed was still on the way.
He's going up the left side of the map, gonna look for some more openings. The beauty of Eastwatch, though, is it is one of the only maps that has a lot of terraforming potential to it. A lot of pathways, a lot of rocks you can knock up, knock down.
Knock up? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, get them pregnant, make more little baby rocks. That's how you, that's how these rock towers make more rocks to block the pathway, you know? Rocks don't just grow on trees.
Griffin used to ride that baby for miles.
Maynard had a really great quote from yesterday. I can't remember. I can't quite remember what it was. I clipped it, but something like tighter than a dolphin's asshole or something. And I sat there going like, wait, what?
Do you mean blowhole? I mean, why a dolphin's asshole? Okay, whatever. Okay, aLive is...
There we go.
Yeah, he's trying to push through, but now the chokes can work against him with these blinding clouds. But his tanks are quite spread out, and there's a deep line of them. His problem, actually, in this fight was that they were too spread out. 6 tanks in the back line weren't firing for, like, much of that fight.
Even then, like, I kind of question, you gotta consider how much Solar just threw in there to pick off about, what, 3 tanks? Would 3 of Abducts been better than 3 blinding clouds in that instance?
That's actually, I think Abducts are going to be much better on this map in general, as long as aLive doesn't, you know, super clump up, of course. Yeah,
yank him over the cliff so they can't even walk away. I mean, it's guaranteed kills, but at the same time, totally understandable, because anytime you grab a tank, you're really just putting it in range of your army, and it's going to get 1 shot off before dying. So maybe he takes the same amount of damage.
It's a much more interesting fight between these two armies because we are on such a weird map that it's just full of chokes. So, you know, sometimes you see Marine tank on this go into the super late game. Mech seems to make sense as well. It just is slower and doesn't abuse the, I think the, it doesn't abuse killing extra bases like Bio does.
Yes. Good side on that Viper.
Solar should probably already be on even maybe 6 bases, but his gold's been harassed a little. but he's on his way to a greater spire.
Yeah, actually, I was kind of pointing this out. Don't want to interrupt you, but aLive had taken a block down here. Not that this is impossible to remove, but he's not wasting any army going down. He sees it with the Overlord. This does guarantee aLive information saying, well, I see what's happening in the north, and I know I've blocked your south, so you're on fairly limited bases, Solar.
Supply block Solar a little, losing those Overlords. Okay, those are eventually going to do something. Maybe get the upgrade. I was waiting for the parasitic bomb to come down. The Vikings were looking awfully juicy for that. And also a problem that he has to get rid of. And now that they're dead or dying, they're weakened. Broodlords are coming out.
I really like, by the way, that we have Hellbats and Hellions in production. Because he hasn't needed them yet, doesn't mean you won't need them later. It's not tanks to deal with the Broodlings, it's Hellbats. Also, these Hellbats look really cool. I don't know, that dark black and blue combo? It's trying to do some, like, Warhammer 40k Ultramarines, man. It's looking dope.
It's like one of the few Terrans I see produce Hellbats. I mean, they come over very slowly.
Well, I think part of it was because he did see, like, he saw those units sitting outside of his base.
He's smart.
It was actually really smart because what Solar may have been doing with that, I mean, it looks silly and AFK to us, but he may have actually just been hoping to catch reinforcements and not actually push up and trigger a fight. And if that's the case, I understand leaving it there, but I really think that may have just come down to some complacency. Regardless, this attack to the south is running for its life. It's not going to do much, so he's going to try and trade out with it the best he can. This will take a fair amount of units out with it, but then they're kind of stuck with the vision.
Yeah.
Scan.
But aLive has a lot of scans. I mentioned that Solar maybe wants to be already on a 6 base, and I might even say, like, in a perfect game where he wasn't harassed or pushed or anything, he's on like 7, because aLive is actually doing a fantastic job out expanding a Zerg player, which isn't supposed to be the case. But it is East Watch, and it feels like the sooner you get these down, the more secure they're going to be, right? Like, by trying to get Lings where you're building a command center.
One thing that really is missing from this for aLive, because he is going so hyper with expansions, no building armor. Would love to see building armor for these planetary fortresses.
That is a good point. He's getting to that super late stage too with like multiple starports. It is just time to start upgrading your buildings.
This is a tough spot to be in. The Ravens aren't quite enough to carpet bomb the Hydras, so the tanks have to really be used for this, but can't because of the Broodling threat. So throws down those anti-armor missiles on the Broodlords. Vipers, not really existent. They get a couple parasitic bombs, and the Vikings now free-firing on the Broodlords. Hydras try to churn on them, realizing, wait, this is a problem, and Solar's pushed back.
He is, but I wonder if he got the better trade at the end of the day. I mean, he's maxing faster, so I guess it's hard to sell. Oh, and then he walks in a bunch of tanks, so it's not so good.
Oh, tanks can kill that Thor before the Broodlords will.
Right.
Friendly fire's the son of a bitch!
Yeah. Okay, alright. No, actually, Solar did not getting the better trade. I saw the Ravens dive in and die, but then he's like just letting Hydras kind of take shots from these tanks. His push was not successful, and he wasn't banking a ton. As, 75 workers is actually really decent, but is a little oversaturated in some of these bases, and more bases would be better here.
Oh, Queen's run. Speaking of bases, by the way, both players have weirdly blocked out one. I mean, we pointed out the barracks block over here earlier, but there's still group spread over on this one, so aLive kind of leapfrogging to the top left is fine. These fights still get really scary for the Terran, not because it's like, oh, you don't have enough tanks, but hey, there's Broodlords and there's no Hellions to wash off the Broodlings, but secondly, this high ground of grass, if at any point his air dies and he doesn't scan, he won't be able to even fight.
Yeah, parasitic bomb needs to be used here to help out.
Not enough energy. It's gotta consume.
He's not microing it, right? He's doing a million other things at once. He's also, I guess, protecting himself from like a tank run by or something at his 4th. So this is just going really poorly. That's where his Hydras went.
The thing is, though, as long as it's trading out army for army, this isn't really that bad for Solar. It's if he starts losing a lot of drones and he has no economy and no bases to fall back to, which we're approaching this point, which is why I bring it up, that's when Solar really starts hurting, right? How many times are we used to balance complaining about Zerg and seeing them with like a 7k bank? That's not happening here. Solar's being kept low on supply, he has to keep spending, so he doesn't actually have a bank behind this. And taking the bases to the south has taken so long that really he's on this base, which is awesome but dangerous, and a gold base that will mine out quicker than you'd like it to.
Yeah, there's a lot of things missing in this game for Solar because of some of the earlier run-bys, I want to say. Like, he got perfect scouting on the 3cc, and he should have been kind of exploding along with aLive, but instead he was cut down every now and again. So not just the hatchery count, because the drone count's fine, but the hatchery count, but also the creep spread. Never really got as far out as you would like. It doesn't actually cover all the avenues of Hellion run-bys, which haven't been such a big problem in the last couple of minutes, but they could be. Like, this game goes on for a very long time. You usually have that kind of covered, but Eastwatch being a difficult map in the first place to get creep spread, and then just the constant pressure that aLive has been taking to Solar, not just with the Hellion run buys, but with some of these tactics, you know, like the push in the middle, that was a very low tank count, but kind of did something. This is pretty awesome here.
Oh!
Another scan.
9 health. I was like, not like this! I do like that we had transformation service research, by the way. I think a lot of Terrans, I almost feel like either forget or complacent about getting it, but especially with the threat of parasitic bombs. I mean, Hellions to Hellbats, the transformation's great, but being able to instantly land the Vikings and shrug off that damage is huge for some of these fights.
Mm-hmm. Oh, now aLive's certainly missing some things as well. Still waiting on that building armor and Isaac auto tracking, but you know, Solar just hasn't been doing many run bys, or he's not getting much counter pressure because he's kind of been losing the fights here, just barely keeping his head above water.
Cosmic Spray comes down the top left. That's kind of annoying. I forgot. I'm gonna have to meme with this a little bit today since you've been gone. I'll let you dealers trace this one without explanation. Skynet or subscriber?
Skynet.
Okay, guys, I have changed up the AI for Zombie Grub that we had installed while she was gone and upgraded a little bit, which is why it seems so realistic today. So for those who are really excited to hear her in chat, I see you talking about waiting to see what she says next. Keep in mind, it's not really her, it's still the unshackled AI that's replicated there.
Yeah.
The other one I went with was I pretended you were in subscriber only mode. You had to subscribe to hear Zombie Grub, and I was having some straight up fake conversations with you and like pausing for your response and stuff. And then this one guy actually believed it. He's like, "Wow, how do they have the technology to do this?"
That's kind of crazy, to be honest, man.
I'm gonna be real. It's not in a rude way. Sometimes it's fun when you're not here, though, because of the memes that come from it. But, all right, tanks set up for some good shots. Even though they will die, they'll take a lot of Hydras out with them. In Solar, I talked a few moments ago, he didn't have a bank. He does now, and that's awesome. But you still don't want to have to hold down that Hydralisk button. They're really expensive to replace. And whether it's Corruptors or Broodlords or Vipers, whatever you're replacing them with, are equally, if not more, expensive.
Looks like aLive's still a little scared to take on this army. I mean, a lot of the problems of the initial fights here for Solar have been that he didn't have a lot of Corruptors to help his Broodlords. There, you know, so few units, they were getting cut down by just a few Vikings. Now it's a big air army versus another huge one. And this is finally some damage, you know, the caustic spray on the one planetary. This goes down here at the gold base of the Hydras.
This really bothers me, though, because I feel like this one was actually preventable. Building armor with that surround might have actually been enough to keep it alive. Or at least trade for way more Hydras.
Yeah, agreed. So it's simply missing. aLive was banking 2,000 at some point. Like, he should have gotten there.
Oh, the air army's gonna be pretty ridiculous with 25 Corruptors and only 8 Ravens. He's not gonna be able to carpet bomb this down in easy peasy fashion. However, if he takes out the Broodlords, that's all that really will matter at the end of the day. And oh my god, so much explosions. We got parasitic bombs. We've got anti-armor missiles, but aLive is the one who's going to lose this fight, no doubt about it.
Yeah, really badly.
He doesn't have the money to replace this.
Yeah, he was...
Oh my god,
he was not banking.
What a terrible engagement, and of course all these Corruptors that were low, they're gonna be full health when they transform into Broodlords, so an even tougher army to have to deal with as a follow-up. I mean, he's building more Ravens now, but what really bothers me about that position was he's pushing into a base, a gold base that's essentially mined out. That was actually not tactically a good fight, even if he were to have won it.
That's a good point. I guess he was taking out a base to the exact 12 o'clock, but no, I agree. Like, there's also this whole thing where, like, the aggressor in these situations often puts himself in the worst position. So do you really have to be the aggressive one when it's usually Zerg who's like, you know, oh, Ravens are too good, I can't break Ravens, blah, blah, blah. Like, it just felt like aLive was asking for parasitic bombs when he pushed in and clumped his units together. Yeah,
he should have been sitting back. There should have been a ring of missile turrets for his army to hide within, and then just do Hellion run-bys like this. I mean, this is not working now, and he's probably going to bleed out to the slow push of the Broodlords, but I think that we have seen much better late game than what we saw out of aLive, at least with his decision-making here in the last few throws of the game. And I say throws, but I guess it's also a double intended meaning, because this is over, guys. aLive is dead.
It is. Yeah, he's dead. Yeah, that was it. That was too bad of a fight. It almost seems like aLive is still kind of new and new in the programmer aspect. So he's like 60 hours instead of 500 hours played with this style, right? Like, because I think the last time we saw aLive go super late game, like say GSL games, it was like Bio Ghost, you know, with like complementary Ravens. He did an aggressive mech transition, which just, you know, didn't work out when he clumped up. That's what happens.
But regardless of all that, it's game 1 in a best of 3, so maybe this was just an off game. As I said though at the start, I was pretty confident that Solar was going to take this. He's got better late game, and unless aLive's going to be proxy raxing him, I don't think we're going to see Solar not go for the late game. With the one exception though, that he is coming into a match now where he's up 1, he's got a life to lose. He may be willing to risk an all-in depending on the map.
It's true. It's a catalyst, by the way.
Okay, cool. In the meantime, small update to the top half of the bracket. Zest has 2-0'd Bunny. Impacting Keen fight to face him. I gotta imagine Keen is gonna lose that. Nothing against Keen, absolutely love the guy, but Impact just looked so good yesterday against Terrans like Gumiho and Innovation. And I mean, I don't care about the spoiler aspect of this, so cover your ears if you're really upset you don't want to hear the results. All right, 3, 2, 1. But Impact getting out of that group over both Innovation and Gumiho was surprising to say the least.
Got all the casters coming in. Jesus.
I guess, yeah, they must have all been in the Zest Bunny series. I do love though that they assume it's 1-1.
Right?
I'm like, this is Terran versus Zerg, you silly billies.
Ready?
Mm-hmm. All right, folks, we're hopping into Catalyst, so let's rock that map intro, and we'll see you in game. Meow, hang on there a second, Zombie Grub. The guy has a point in chat. He says, when even Innovation is complaining about imbalance, you know the matchup is broken. To which everyone's response is clearly, if you know Innovation, he's always complaining about balance. That could also mean that the matchup is always broken. Those are not mutually exclusive things.
Hey, I mean, it's true.
Oops, sorry, I was feeding the fire. Whoopsies. But a quick comment on that. If you guys really don't know, Innovation, I know he's heralded and regarded as this great, amazing pillar of an unemotional, crazy good Korean. Really, he's got a lot of personality if you get to know him, and he balance wines a ton. He's hilarious.
Yeah, he does.
But it is game number 2, and spawning here on the lower right side with a nice 1-0 victory. We've got the Teal Zerg Splices Solar.
In the top left, has the Red Terran. He is alive.
All right, plus G asks, are we doing a free-for-all after?
Oh.
I mean, I gotta be honest, I don't think that was a Thelma the Owl by any means, but it's pretty close. I was asking, are we doing a free-for-all after the show today? So here's pretty much the deal with free-for-alls, guys, right, going forward, because I know a lot of you have really hopped on this hype train, and I've enjoyed doing them with you. But if the casts go long, I'm not going to really have the energy to do a free-for-all after it's done, and I can't expect everyone, like Maynard or Zombie Grub or everyone to always join me either. So it's fun that if we sent, like, I guess donation incentives and stuff, we can do that sort of stuff, but I guess unless we state explicitly otherwise, don't expect free-for-alls. This is one of the fears I had when I started doing this more frequently with y'all, that you would start making this too much of a regular thing. It's supposed to be special and fun and once in a while. So yeah, if the cast is short and there's like a lot of 2-0s, right, and 3-0s, then maybe we'll find some room for a free-for-all at the end. But I don't want you guys going into this with the assumption that we will always be doing free-for-alls after every cast. That being said, not to be like the stern parent, I am legitimately enjoying them when we do them, though.
They seem fun. Yeah.
It's great because if I didn't have the pros that we had done to the Twitch Rivals event to compare it to, I'd be like, wow, this is a shit show. But then you realize it's a shit show for everybody, so you're like, wow, these players are playing just like the pros.
Yeah, it's just free for all, man.
Yeah.
We're on Catalyst here, and I feel like aLive did choose this because if it does go into late game, we'll see if he goes mech or bio, but regardless of which one he chooses, if it goes into the late game, we've been seeing easier times, I suppose, from like Yun, just bringing a one name forward, where you don't have to maneuver around so much. When you push, you're like literally just right at your opponent's doorstep. So you don't have to push across a map into a choke, into a setup of a Zerg, right? Like we saw last game. That's if it even goes there, but it does seem more trendy for Terran versus Zerg to go there.
Throws his scarf over his shoulder.
It's trendy.
One thing aLive didn't do, and I really am not in love with this, was scout very well with that Reaper. Take a quick look at his vision. He didn't see the third. He didn't hop to the main. He didn't even see the gases, whether they be taken or not at the natural, right? Like, this was not a very effective Reaper in terms of, like, getting information.
Yeah. But it is a normal game, so.
Well, exactly, and that's, I guess, my caveat here, where Solar... I don't think he's like Snoot, where you expect him to play macro always and forever. He will throw a Ravager all in at you once in a while, but it's a safe bet that if you're gonna take a risk on whether Solar's playing a standard build versus a cheese build, it's safe to lean towards standard. So while he doesn't scout the third, I bet you aLive has a pretty good idea of exactly what Solar's done.
Solar does slap down an earlier Roach Warren, but this might have been a result because he also got a lair around this time too, so it's not like it's super early. This might have been because, as you recall, the Roaches were literally 4 seconds late to a Hellion run by, but he's not getting a lair, so I might just say that this is going to be for an attack, and aLive just guessing here that there's a third base isn't enough because the third base is not being droned, so that's the most important thing. And with more Overlords on the way too, and already a big gap in supply, I think this is going to be a very aggressive push. But I wonder if this is really worth it nowadays. With the Cyclone openers and the Raven. Oh, but he's pushing with it. Oh,
I love you and I miss you.
Like defense, if the Hellions go forward and they scout a bunch of Roaches, then you just set up the Cyclones behind a wall and you try to maybe get 2 more, right? But he's pushing with it. He's not really doing a lot of scouting with the Hellions, so he's already transferred his factory off to build a reactor for more barracks. This could end up going very perfectly for Solar.
That being said, there's still the real danger of the anti-armor missile. It actually adds a lot of damage the Hellions can bring to the Roaches that they normally don't have. And the Cyclones, of course, just go ham on armored units as is. Give them what is effectively 3 weapon upgrades in the early game. I mean, I'm not going to say 2 Hellions can take on the world, but we might have a 300 at the hot gate situation, you know what I'm saying?
Boy. Okay, he knows what's up now. Yeah, the anti-armor missile is going to be very helpful, but it would be so much more helpful if he had kept the factory producing. If he had gone mech, basically.
That was such a bad engagement out of the legs. Panic bunkers coming to play. He's got to raise that depot, though. There we go. This will buy some time. The wall will crack, but the idea is that it buys enough time for the bunkers to go up at least. Tank on the way now, 5 Marines. I mean, he will eventually, ideally, have enough to push this back, but... Oh boy, I almost wish he would have let the command center take a bit more damage. He doesn't have the damage in these bunkers yet. Hellions have to keep the Lings off the bunker. The SCVs go for this around. Big repairs, but big corrosive bios to match those repairs. With the armors reduced by 3 and all these orange units too, these Ravagers would take a lot of damage if they were being shot, but they're not. So much of this is spent on the Lings. This
ends up being a hold, and aLive had a very quick 3rd CC. If he holds here, then it is just a fantastic position. I guess it wasn't an orbital, so... It's not as good as it could be, but now he has a tank, and this should not be something that Solar can push into, now with the bunkers as well. So aLive holds, but Solar has to actually make up for this economy.
Right, when that goes back to the point of this 3rd CC in comparison, right? Solar actually started getting drones pretty much as the attack hit. Like, this was committed, but I don't think he ever had plans to make this all in. So the layer's finishing up now. His drone count's not too bad. His economy is killing it at the moment because of that spike of workers. But as soon as aLive gets to start making use of this, drop a mule, float it over, we'll see him start catching up. Regardless, though, being down 40 SCVs to 61 drones, not devastating, but not great for aLive yet.
No, what's actually quite nice for aLive, though, is that so originally him going bio might have been a problem. He didn't have a lot of production, but the tank barely came out in time. Now it's a good thing because he can do a bunch of drops. He has Stim already done, although they need to start combat shields. Where if you're a mech, you're just kind of hoping for Helmet run bys, which might be a little bit easier to tackle. So with the drops, that's where Terrans typically come back along with the 3rd CC if it wasn't orbital, that's where the two things combined make it so that you really need to kill a lot of SCVs usually with an attack like that. I want to say like 25 at least, but not quite grabbing that number.
Spore's at a pretty nice spot, actually. I don't think the medevacs will unload on top of it, but sometimes that shift click can get you killed.
Yeah, okay. He dodges. He's going to see an infestation pit and now realizes that Solar's plan is probably just get up to Hive. So, yeah, there's two choices, really.
Yeah, he could buy a lot of time here if he was targeting the infestation pit. He wants to trade for units, though, which isn't too bad. Delaying the Hive would be cool, though, because this is not like a mech game. In mech, the earlier Hive you can kind of let the Zerg player get away with, but when you're playing Bio, if they get up to Ultras too quick and you're still sitting on Marine tank only with no Liberators, no Marauders, no Ghosts, you're going to have a really bad time.
Live would do well to start clearing up creep here, if he can. Of course, he's trying to mule as well to build up the SCD count. Oh, this was just alone. So alone. He dies, alone.
Well, some interesting information from that, though, is he scouted that Baneling speed wasn't done yet. It's finishing literally now as we speak, but Solar did delay the Hive ever so slightly to bring this up. Like, the infestation pit, finished really quick, and it didn't hold down the Hive button right away. He actually did invest in more Zerglings and a couple of Banelings there. Now, with it on the way, he's feeling more secure with an army, and he should. He's up 30-something supply. This shouldn't be the case. Zerg players pushing for that Hive tech are usually finding themselves in a very close to army situation. They're bleeding out trying to get to it. This is supposed to be the weakest point in Solar's game, and aLive's not able to capitalize on this in the slightest.
No, he's not. The Ultras would be a problem. I mean, aLive, if he had planned on going to a late game, he certainly wanted more momentum in the mid game to before that happened, right? Like, he would have maybe a 4th base on the way, and then Liberators, you know, bringing that up, so... It is definitely concerning. He is trying his best to clear up the creep, but it's always that wonder, like when you see the queen still out in the map and you want to snipe those to really stop the creep spread, hope they just forget to remake them. He hasn't. I already got one, but there's still 2 more, you know, with the army that's immediately just plants on creep again.
There's 2 mores?
Ha! I get it.
Wordplay. Now, of course, this wall is nice and set up, and there's actually not enough Banelings here at first glance to actually bust it down. I mean, you only do need 5, but guys, you usually lose 1 on the way in, right? So it's not going to be something he runs through just yet, but with more Banelings coming and more even being hatched as we speak, this is all an army for Solar that it doesn't have to commit to anything. All he really has to do is wait for this to finish, and he's going to have a fantastic game to follow through with.
Lots of upgrades on the way. It's very scary to see, like, not just them diving for an Ultras cavern, but diving while getting so many upgrades. And that creep spread, as said, it just wasn't really pushed back. Solar was on top of it.
There was a tank here. I didn't expect that to actually bust the wall, but it does. Big pull on the SCVs, keep it alive. Meanwhile, it gets caught in the middle of the map.
Oh, God.
Anti-armor hits about everything, but it doesn't matter. Bailey's like, well, we're destined to die. It's a thing.
Well, that was a series of unfortunate events.
This looks like a better fight for aLive, but it's not. He actually lost the 3rd. That wasn't lifted. So the 3rd base straight up dead. That is going to put him so far behind in this game. In fact, I hate to say it, that might actually have been game-ending damage on the back end of this.
It is. It absolutely is.
Oh god, they're all following one SCV.
They're not even mining. 2 things going really poorly. Moving out, getting countered, and then moving into an army. It's just, there's no staying power here for aLive anymore, and yeah, that's going to be it.
So to address this from Inch to Maniac, anti-armor Banelings looks really worthwhile, though. It is if you're not casting it while they're already on top of you. If the Banelings are already in melee range, you're too late. Because for those who don't know, an anti-armor missile will kill a Baneling with the 1 shot without the upgrade, but then also it doesn't even kill the splash around it. It takes 2. So it's not really that great unless you've got that tank fire coupled with it, or you've got Marines not getting shot. Like, oh, it just feels bad, man. But hey, we've had 1 new sub this stream. And I say new sub, but it's a resub. Wardy, if you're still lurking about, I saw you in chat earlier, man. Thank you for the 27 months. Apparently, I'm a scumbag though, and my sub to Wardy has fell out. So awkward.
Rip.
But not so surprising. Impact did defeat Keen. Ragnarok, more surprising, I'd say, actually defeats Deer. So that's cool. And I guess we're going to be hopping into a best of 5 of Zest versus Impact first. But we are going to go to a commercial break before then. So guys, thank you for joining us for the... God damn it. For the Olimoleague this morning. I now have to go clean my glasses. I'll see you soon.